Good morning. Thank you for being here. Whether you're going to be with me live or I'll be posting the replay, of course, as well. But I picked a topic today that I get so many questions around, and honestly, I get so many triggers that come up around it too. A modern woman that wants a traditional relationship. You'll kind of notice if you look at like different comments and different videos and things that I share, there can be like a frustration or an anger around feminine energy and maybe what one interprets that to mean. And sometimes one interprets it to mean that it's limited, that you don't get to have a voice, that you're just supposed to be this doormat. That you don't get to have strong ambitions or dreams or desires for yourself. And you're just supposed to like kind of be this potted plant tucked away in the corner, sort of thing. And so the reason I chose this topic is because I want to go really deep into, clearing this idea of what feminine energy is up, but also where we're not embracing our truth, where we're saying like I'm scared to give voice to the parts of myself that secretly want these things in relationship, or maybe desire to be cared for, or to trust and surrender into the leadership of the masculine. And can we do those things while still holding space for ourselves, while still having a voice, and really just self honoring? So, this is what I want to dive into today. And I did get a lot of questions. A lot of them were on boundaries, though. So if you submitted a question and you wanted to talk to me about boundaries, I encourage you to watch my last live where I go deep into that. And so you can refer to that as a reference, in terms of that specific topic. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there in advance so everyone knew. And please submit any questions you have as it relates to this in the chat as I kind of get going here. Okay, so the biggest aspect of being a modern woman, what I mean by a modern woman is you're multifaceted, right? There's many things in which you desire. There's many things that light you up, that intrigue you, that interest you, that you're interested in pursuing. Yet at the same time, you desire to be in that more traditional space in relationship, meaning he is the one with the vision. He is the one moving it forward. You can trust in his leadership. You can feel that sense of safety and being cared for and supported as you also explore the things that are really meaningful to you in life. But one thing I really notice where women get stuck is they want certain things in their relationships, but they're scared to speak it. They're scared to say it out loud. They're scared to own it fully. And this could be from someone in a long-term relationship or someone who is scared to like put their truth on a dating profile. And that could even be like, yeah, I want marriage, or I want life partnership, whatever it means for you, and not being willing to own it, and instead sort of blanketing your truth under, I like to travel, or I like yoga or whatever it is, and putting up these walls and blocks so a person can't truly see you and embrace you because you're not actually willing to do this within yourself, right? And so the the idea of being a modern woman who wants a traditional relationship is a lot of like that more inner child and sort of shadow work of clearing the shame and the guilt and the should haves and would haves, and I wish I could be more like this, the comparison, and really like embodying your truth and being in the essence fully of who you are, right? So the first question that this leads me to bring up is, what are your desires that you're not letting yourself sink into? Where are you subconsciously editing in order to present a certain way that ends up over time widening the gap of who you're presenting as versus who you truly yearn to be. Where is that truth getting layered and layered underneath what you think is socially acceptable or what he wants you to be? And so, can you sink into that? I had shared an example in my own life within the group recently where, when I met, my husband, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago now, he had a very different family dynamic than me. They were all very educated. They were all very much intellectuals. And that's not the world that I came from at all. And so it was very intimidating. And being able to be in my truth with him in that way, like, yeah, this is, the house I grew up in. These are my parents. My mom is a cashier at a grocery store. These sorts of things where I'm really owning that truth of who I am and embracing it in real time versus feeling like, oh gosh, he looks so amazing, or he has all these beautiful things going on, or his family's so smart and educated. How am I going to measure up? Versus, no, like, let me tell the truth. Let me hold space to show a man who I really am and where I came from, and to embrace that girl who at one point in her life felt like it needed to look different than it was, right? That she fell for sort of the line of, oh, if it doesn't look like this, then you're a loser, or you should be ashamed or embarrassed, or, shrink yourself. And instead to like really begin to recognize all of those self edits and all of those layers we put over ourselves, where suddenly it's like we don't even know the lie from the truth within ourselves, because we've begun to really lie to ourselves for so long that it gets confused and muddled. And so now, to be a modern woman who wants a traditional relationship, it really starts with embodying your truth and committing to be in the highest level of it as you can in this moment in time, right? Knowing that it's always going to be growing and changing as you accept yourself more. But consider in relationship, whether you're dating or if you're in a deeper partnership, when someone sees us showing up humbly, earnestly, and purely as we are, as humans, we all recognize that. And it's so beautiful. And it ignites a powerful masculine component in him to see a woman who, or a feminine, partner who is in that beautiful space of holding, that truth and that acceptance and that love for herself. Because it's when we're in this space that he's then able to give that to us. But so often subconsciously we are saying, I'm not willing to love and accept myself or hold space for myself, but I want you to do that, right? Which of course limits his ability to actually give to you, to love you, to connect to you, and really just ignite the higher self in him, that higher expression in him from his heart, right? So many women will try to connect to a man from more of the ego, right? Like, oh, this is what I did today. This is what I've achieved. This is where I've traveled. These are all the things. And it's great for conversation, right? Like, that's lovely, not to minimize any of the things that you've like accomplished, but those are not going to be the things that make a man fall in love with you, right? Or deepen in his love for you. Those are just like nice things that you've done, but it's still connected to the head space. It's not connected to the heart space. And so the practice becomes like, how can I connect to my heart with him, which in turn then triggers him to connect to his heart when he's around you. And this is a very different experience than what he's used to dealing with day to day, right? He's used to dealing with, other competitive men, just testosterone, all the hormones, all the instincts, right? But to be able to enter like that heart space around you, because you create this environment that feels safe and like home, all through your own self-acceptance and self-love and self-honor. This is the most beautiful foundation that you can build with another. And sometimes I'll get questions like, oh, well, I've been doing it wrong for 10 years, now what? And consider that you can do this at any moment. As soon as you see it, you start to embrace it, and commit to changing it, right? You don't talk yourself out of it. Oh, that's too hard to share, or it's too far gone, and start to rationalize. No, it's about meeting yourself steadily right where you are. And I'm going to give another example of this that I wrote down because I see this situation a lot where when we meet a man, or if we've been in a relationship, we've wanted to give this impression of kind of being the cool girl, right? Like the laid back girl, or yeah, like, I can deal with that, or I don't get jealous or possessive, or I don't have any of those things come up. Like I'm different, right? Like I'm different. And so we hide what really is okay with us because we're too concerned in those moments about his perception of us. And we realize that we can't play this game more and more over time. Like we can't commit to being that cool girl because those emotions that, the resentment, the anger, the jealousy, the possessiveness, the righteousness, they start seeping out in other ways. And so it's a really important skill in terms of being a modern woman who wants a traditional relationship to say what you mean and mean what you say, right? From the beginning. Notice those tendencies to go into another person's perception of you. What are they going to think of me? I want them to view me like this. Like then they're going to kind of see and want to make the commitment. We're so used to looking out and operating from the outside point of view that we can't keep up with this persona that our head has told us we need to be in order to have love. And instead, it's like, can you choose yourself over him in real time as soon as you see it and practice from there? Like, actually, no, that doesn't feel comfortable for me. I don't feel comfortable being best friends with an ex. I feel like that would lead to complicated emotions for me and not let me be of my highest quality in this relationship, right? Like you start to bring voice to what you're feeling instead of shaming yourself or making yourself bad or wrong for not being the standard or the definition of modern that society has sort of dictated for all of us. And so you're really in this practice deepening your own self-trust and your intuition by accessing your inner compass and trusting where you're being guided, trusting that it's okay to know your limitations and know what it takes for you to be successful in relationship, right? This is a gift to him in the long term, because when a woman can say what she wants and what she needs steadily from the heart with full permission, he accepts it. He feels safe. Okay, thank you for sharing. Now I know what I'm dealing with, versus having it be like, oh, you said this 3 months ago, or I thought you were cool with her. What happened? And then him not being able to trust you because of these inconsistencies. Can you all relate to this? Have you done this before? Feel free to like share in the chat like what comes up for you, because I would love to hear, because some of this is so just kind of whitewashed and normalized as the way we do things. And the invitation is really to go into deeper questioning around, am I really okay with this? Or have I told myself that I have to be, right? Let's see, what else did I want to speak to that part? Yeah, the blind spots, that's what I just spoke on. And I think the provider aspect of the masculine, like that part of us as women where we want to be cared for. We want someone to have our back. We want those things. And oh my gosh, do we dare speak to that? Do we dare say that in this modern world? And I want to invite you to really look at the black and white thinking on this. It's like you can hold space for that part of you that wants to be cared for, that wants to be cherished, that wants to be adored, that wants that sort of element of being cared for. And you can still have big dreams and be independent and self-honor. But I feel like we've been put into these camps of one or the other. And so the invitation is, where am I not being nuanced enough in my desires? And where can I really bring to light the aspects that just feel so meaningful to me deep down? Can you notice areas where you've been taught maybe to hold shame, or you've been taught that, like, if I want these things, I'm not successful or I'm weak? Because those are some of the biggest comments that I'll get, like that I'm telling people to just lay on the ground and do nothing, or to not speak up for yourself, or to stand up for what's right. And it's not that, but it's not from that masculine space. The feminine energy is about like resolving conflict and honoring differences from the heart, right? And so that means that if I have a disagreement with my husband, I'm not presenting a bunch of data points to him to show him how right I am and why he must comply with my way, right? This is kind of what we've been taught to do. And it leads to a severe imbalance of polarity and just disconnection. And so it's more like that intuitive space of the feminine, like that doesn't feel right to me. I feel uncomfortable with that. I'm not really sure why, it just feels off. And it's that like self-honoring and holding that space, but letting the mess be on the floor type of thing, right? Not feeling like you've got to get to the final outcome, the final solution, and just allowing things to be in that space of uncertainty where you approach differences from a different space within yourself, from that like just subtle and slower space of, yeah, like it doesn't feel right, it feels misaligned, and that's it, versus like, I know what we need to do, like follow me, do it my way. Because when we do too much of that with a masculine man, he will slowly go more into that disempowered kind of feminine space, right? And then we are doing all of the heavy lifting, which leads to a lot of different resentments and complexities developing over time. And as I've said before, the amount you're doing in relationship is typically related to the amount of resentment you feel. So in the feminine space, you're speaking the truth, you're speaking to your emotions, you're in that heart space versus head, and you're allowing that to navigate and lead you, right? Which means also the slowing down aspect, right? When you're getting to know someone and redefining sort of modern, what does that mean conversationally for you? But just holding that gentle space, where maybe there's a silent pause, or you're just sitting there uncomfortably, and instead of reacting to it, you're allowing yourself to drop into the body, your beingness. You're noticing how comfortable you are just existing in that moment with him, versus feeling like you've got to be on or the entertainer in some capacity. So it's like that gentleness of just like being in the silence and regulating your nervous system to kind of settle in and be with that differently. To me, it's a beautiful opportunity to just, hold space for yourself. And as you do that in these little ways, he will also be inspired by that. He will see that you are a woman who is comfortable in her own skin, that accepts herself, that doesn't feel like she has to be something different than who she is, right? So much of this work is in the subtleties of what we do in a given moment. How reactive are we? How stimulated is our nervous system? What do we do with the trigger when we feel it, right? Trigger firing off in nanoseconds. Do we go into that masculine, controlling, clamping down space, or do we allow ourselves to be with that emotional experience and then communicate our truth, communicate our desires from a softer lens after we've processed, So all of these things go with creating the safety inside to be that woman who can speak to what she wants, to can speak to her deepest dreams and desires and yearnings without shame or guilt muddling that voice, right? And sometimes women will often say to me, like, I'll be able to communicate these things later, like after this hurdle or after this challenge. But if you're used to kind of putting on a persona, or if you're used to really looking out and monitoring or managing another's perception of you, I can tell you quite honestly that you're never going to feel like ready, right? You're never going to feel like, now I'm ready to tell the truth, or now I'm ready to show more of who I am. It's more like you're going to have to kind of hold that little girl inside of you and support her. Your inner child is always going to find a reason to want to try to stay safe in the moment. And it's really that conscious part of you saying, like, it's okay. Like, we've got this. We can do this. We're safe to, like, share what's coming up for us, or we're safe to be in this space. Because as you do this, you'll recognize that your fears will begin to decrease, and you'll begin to slowly up level and share more of who you are with a man, or share the things you wouldn't dare share in your past, and see the level of intimacy that this creates, and the level of motivation and inspiration in him to give, to be in that traditional masculine space, to ignite that hero's instinct, right? But if we're acting like we've got it all figured out and there's no room for him to contribute to our life, he is not going to be inspired to go into that masculine space. He will see you as someone who has it all figured out and doesn't need any help, and take a more passive and potentially resentful role, because it is innate within the masculine to want to give and contribute to your life in a way no one else can, right? That is an innate gift and longing that lives within him. And instead of like telling him, I've got this, like, I can buy my own stuff, go away, in those subtle ways, can we say, yeah, like, it would feel really nice to not have to do any planning or worry about that tonight. Or, yeah, I could have bought this for myself, and look how sweet you are, and look how you show up for me. And can you really take that time to honor all the things that he naturally wants to do, and really hold space for yourself to receive, and to deepen in your ability to be open to that, right? Let's see. Let me know if you have thoughts on this, and if it triggers any questions, you can always add and type in. The other thing I wanted to break down a little bit in this conversation is present moment awareness, because so often when we are denying ourselves the things that, we really feel or that we want, it's because we have loaded the past or the future into it. And we hear the term present moment awareness so often, but, like, do we really know what that means? Like, when we are approaching something, are we pulling into the subconscious mind, the information center, things that we've been taught or told or shamed for in the past, right? So it's like we can easily go into the subconscious and say, oh, that didn't work out well for me. And then the next thing you know is we're bringing that into the dynamic, and we're not seeing that we're not in the full present moment with him. And so this is an invitation to go deeper into, yeah, you can type in any questions in the chat. So, you would just need to kind of ask your question, and then I'm happy to speak to it. Sorry about that. So I'm going to get a little distracted by the chat. So make sure that, you bear with me on that. But the full present moment awareness is where you take that pause, you take that opportunity to drop down into your body, and you look at it and say, am I bringing anything before into this? Am I bringing my past relationship into this? Am I bringing my fears into this? Am I bringing what my mother said into this? And if so, that is your cue to be very, very still, and to allow yourself to ride that emotional wave first, and to connect to where you are in space and time, and look at him from a very generous perspective, right? Being able to be very generous with him, and be able to say, you know what, even telling the truth in those moments. Some of my past came into that response, or I'm reacting to something really old in me, and it isn't fair for me to bring that into this conversation, and to acknowledge the truth in those moments and then approach it from a space of full present moment awareness, meaning you're not pulling future fears into it or past traumas or disappointments into it. Um, so I got a question in the chat. I'm desiring a partner, but this conversation, it would need to be a little bit more specific than that. So if there's like something specific I can speak to, because this conversation is on the topic of a traditional, a modern woman that wants a traditional relationship. And while I'm happy to incorporate anything in, it would kind of just need to be more of a specific question than a general topic. And then if you have one, just circle back and I'll be sure to read it and add it into the conversation. Let's see. So from here, I think these are the points I wanted to speak to. Do you all have any questions? Is there anything else that I can add to this conversation that would be of value to you? The biggest piece that I want you to take away from it is the self-editing component, where you're seeing where you are hiding. That is the biggest aspect. Where am I hiding? Where am I not willing to show the truth of who I am? Where am I not willing to let him see me? Where am I ashamed of my past or the way I've handled something? And can I be in full truth with that? Can I share where I am right now and radically accept where I am right now, knowing that this is going to evolve and improve every single day, right? This is the biggest shift one can make in relationship, because to be honest with you, it's the only way we'll actually ever feel truly safe in partnership. If we hide behind the persona or the ego of what we're supposed to be or what that definition is supposed to look like, we will never feel fully loved and accepted. We will always wonder, like, would they accept me if? Would they love me if they knew I did this in the past, or if they knew this about me, would they still love me? And it's in that revealing and not being afraid to show ourselves to another that true intimacy flourishes. And we essentially alchemize those parts of us that are deeply repressed and stuffed down, and don't allow them to manifest in these sort of sabotage unconscious ways. And instead, we clear them in real time by showing ourselves that it's safe to be who we are and to reveal ourselves fully to another. And so this is the practice. But for those of you that really want to play with this, it starts in subtle ways. It's a subtle thing that builds over time. It's like you're going to be presented with those little moments where it's like, I have a choice right now. I can tell the truth. I can say, I want to get married, or I want to have children and raise them and have that be my focus, or whatever it is that you're hiding. Like, can you speak to that without putting pressure on another, but just owning the things that feel meaningful to you? Or even just those little decisions where it's like he's asking you if you want to do something and you want to be like cool or be sort of seen as easy, and so you just go along, but it's not really in alignment with what you feel deep down. And you see that fork in the road and you make that choice to say, I'm not feeling up for that, or, that doesn't feel like the right choice for me. I would be open to X instead, or, that embarrassing sister or friend. And it's like, yeah, that person, that's true. That person's in my life, and I love them. And you reveal all of those sort of more shameful components as they present. So this is a moment to moment practice that's going to present to you. And the invitation in this live is to bring that into your consciousness, because it's so easy to knee jerk react and go into that identity role or that persona. And instead it's like, no, let me move into this. Let me show you who I am right now. Let me go deeper. Let me be in truth, recognizing that's going to clear more and more barricades and really heal the space you feel between a masculine partner or just the space you feel with the masculine as a whole, because it's in those unspoken spaces that those barriers block our energy and what he can feel from us, which is how a man falls in love. And so really, I invite you to play with this practice. And some of you have emailed me or commented on different videos as you've played with these things. So let me know how it supports you. And if you're dealing with anything sticky where you feel like you've kind of blocked yourself or set yourself up in a way that it's like, oh gosh, like I didn't lay a good foundation, book a call with me. I have my introductory call at a discounted rate, and I have a few slots each week on my calendar for that, but we can really go deep into specific things you can do to start changing the dynamic and to feel safe in relationship, to feel safe to be yourself, to know that you can inspire as your feminine being the most beautiful components of the masculine, right? Like you have that beautiful innate power, and it's about really bringing it into your consciousness and drawing out the best in him from this authentic and beautiful space. And so this is really what I'm most passionate about in terms of just supporting women with. So, and men, of course, but, the polarity teachings are different. So let me know. And thank you for being here today. Much love to you all.